Drag racing fan, Between the Slicks, live. Lee Craft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer, here in the first leg of the transit to the Funny Car Chaos, Nitro Chaos banquet out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Looking forward to that, and hopefully I'm able to come back and I get out of there alive in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Certainly it's going to be a good time out there with the Chaos folks for Chaos Nation and celebrating all that took place in 2023 and what is in store in 2024. On the show today, a special edition in the middle of the day here on the Monday Morning Racer platform and Competition Plus Facebook page and the Drag Racing Connection Drag Racing page on Facebook is Wes Buck. We're going to be talking with the man behind Drag Illustrated, and in particular, talking about this SCAG Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout presented by Johnson's Horsepower Garage. Looking forward to chatting with Wes. Actually, it'd be Wes's first time on this particular show, my show. We've had him on Competition Plus Power Hour before. Looking forward to chatting with him on what will be certainly the most memorable, I think, drag race that 2024 is going to have. There's already a lot of hype, and I'm sure this group is going to execute well, and we're going to have a stellar drag race. I've been able to see what Wes and the gang is able to do with both renditions of the World Door Slammer Nationals in Orlando, and they were spectacular drag races from the presentation, the racing, and the execution. And I certainly have no doubt that that's going to be the case with this event. So in just a few moments, we will talk with Wes, have him on. We'll dive into drag news after chatting with Wes on this event and more here on Between the Slicks, brought to you by McKinney Corp. I'm very excited to be working with McKinney Corp these days. Since 1981, Murph and the gang, now in Lafayette, Indiana, have been leading the way in innovation in drag racing, and in particular the fuel and alcohol ranks. Oftentimes, when you see a chassis beyond McKinney Corp, they are doing something that Murph McKinney himself and the team there at McKinney Corp engineer and establish and put out there in the industry. In fact, when you look at the SCAG Pro Superstar Shootout, many of the fuel cars that you will see there in competition, they're running fuel tanks built by McKinney Corp, oil tanks built by McKinney Corp, puke tanks built by McKinney Corp, if not even a full chassis and body mount, such as Tim Wilkerson and Chad Green. Beyond that, in the world of drag racing, even in the door car scene, McKinney Corp helps make drag racing possible. So for all your fabrication needs, you certainly need to call and check out McKinney Corp. This word concerning McKinney Corp and Wes Buck on Between the Slicks.
At McKinney Corp, we do far more than just fuel funny cars and top fuel dragsters in the world of drag racing. For example, Jerry Biggle race cars, we provide them with the tanks on those race cars, and with this beautiful Larry's Jeffers race car machine, we in fact manufacture at McKinney Corp the button latch on the door car, and you can find many door cars with that latch. It's a private label that we create for Larry's and others, but you have McKinney Corp producing parts and pieces from tanks to button latches for the door car scene. Let's check out some more McKinney Corp assets and products here at PRI. Ron Capps debuted this beautiful funny car at the U.S. Nationals in 2023, bringing the old school with the new school Dom the Snake Perdome tribute car, and he was able to go on and win the U.S. Nationals in 2023 with this great throwback scheme. But McKinney Corp, though did not build this chassis in particular, did build the fuel tanks that Ron Capps runs in his funny car. One of the best fuel tanks in the industry, and beyond in the fuel ranks, you will find our fuel tanks in many other rides, such as even Antron Brown's top fueler. We're not done with what McKinney Corp does in drag racing. Let's continue at PRI. It's always cool to see Del Worsham hit the track, and he hit the track at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip in this beautiful CP Carrillo funny car. This very body was mounted at at McKinney Corp headquarters in Lafayette, Indiana. In fact, we have a dedicated jig at our facility to mounting funny car bodies. So if it's a new body, old body, we can help you in mounting your funny car body to get funny car racing. Beyond Dale Worsham and Alexis Joria, Tim Wilkerson, Chad Green, we build their chassis, we mount their bodies, we assist them in their funny car operations and beyond, even into the alcohol ranks. As we like to say at McKinney Corp, they drive the drags. If you need anything for your drag racing operation and beyond, contact McKinney Corp.
Wes Buck, welcome to Between the Slicks. Good to have you, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it a lot, buddy. I didn't know this was the first time we've ever done this, so I'm excited to be here, man.
Man, it is exciting to have you, and what a great event drag racing has ahead of it. It has been spectacular. My inbox gets dinged daily with all the updates of so many partners and participants that you all have showing up down there at Bradenton to put on something that drag racing has not seen in a very, very long time. So, Wes, this event, why and what is it going to be?
Why? I think the answer for this is why not? And that was always our question. And when I say we and our, I'm talking about myself, my team at Drag Illustrated, and of course, everybody at Pro, the professional racer owner organization. I think that was kind of the question that we wanted to answer was why not? Why can't we do things differently? Why can't we change the way things have been done historically? And that's really what a lot of this is rooted in is why not? And why not now? And I talked about this back in the summer, but one of the things that we are all guilty of, right? But our community, perhaps especially, is being so late to make a change. We see that these reactionary behaviors where it's like we're gonna wait until there's a huge problem to try to do anything about it. And I guess my perspective on this is let's get ahead of this. Let's try to change the trajectory drag racing is on before we have an issue, right? Or before there's some sort of massive downturn. Let's be solving this problem now. And that's really what this is rooted in, a belief, trying to create change, right? We want to be a catalyst for change. And when I, hearing you talk about, waking up every morning to all the dings and stuff, like it makes me proud, Lee, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to raise the standard, the acceptable standard in drag racing. And to me, that's what I continue to come back to. I continue to come back to the fact that so many of the things that we're doing, this isn't rocket science, right? Taking care of your customers. I mean, this isn't some sort of revolutionary thought, but what we're doing here is rooted in trying to create change and demonstrate that things can be done differently. And there's been some I think misunderstanding, or perhaps I referenced this on our show earlier this week, was that I feel like sometimes people gloss over because they're looking for the on-track action to be what's different. But that's really not what drag racing needs help with. I would argue that our on-track product is as solid as it has ever been. I mean, I would argue that it's the best in motorsports. But it's all the surrounding things. It's all the context and all the storytelling that I feel has lacked. And that's something that we want to change. We want to change the acceptable standards for payout, pomp and circumstance, racer hospitality, fan hospitality, VIP experiences, PR and media coordination. We want to create a new standard across the board there that hopefully will impact other promoters. I mean, I've referenced this a lot lately, but it's something I'm personally pretty proud of. I was looked at like an absolute psychopath whenever I introduced the invitation only format with World Series of Pro Mod back in 2017. I always laughed to myself. I didn't get any questions about where are you getting $100,000, Wes? How are you going to pay these guys? How are you going to get these guys to come run on the mountain? Never heard that. What I heard was, why invite only? right? It's such a foreign concept in drag racing. And here we are in 2024, and there are multiple invite only drag races popping up across the country, and they continue to do so. And I'm proud of that because we introduced something new, and it's becoming an accepted go-to format for promoters. And I'm hoping a lot of the other things that we do, a focus on entertainment, a focus on a concise show, a focus on driver personalities, I hope those other things, high level press and publicity, I hope those other things are adopted by the masses, because I would love to see every promoter out there putting out. I mean, we're on track to put out 500 pieces of individual content before next week that are in support of the Pro Superstar Shootout. I want to see everybody creating that type of movement and that type of action, because it would only make my job at Drag Illustrated easier if there was more content being created. So, man, we want to be a catalyst for change. We want to demonstrate that you can do things differently, and those type of things matter. I think it's easy to think that those type of things don't matter. It's just a drag race, but it's so much more than that. We want to create a modern motorsports event, and that's exactly what the Pro Superstar Shootout will be.
You know, you have the old saying, if it's broke, don't fix it. And I think when it comes to events, that's not always the case. If it is not broke, that's great, but let's figure out how to improve it, and take a shot, take a chance, and see how making the product better can actually happen. And within drag racing, I agree with you. I think our on-track product across the board is stupendous, but there can be more happen around. As you mentioned, the pomp and circumstance. I think of the NASCAR world, there's many tracks they schedule and have as their opening ceremony nothing to do with a race car, nothing to do with anything on track, nothing to do sometimes with the track itself. It is a hauler parade going to the track. And you have people turn out in droves and watch the haulers go by all lit up and hoot and holler. And it's another part of the package to a NASCAR event. And I'm like, well, we have some great haulers in drag racing. Why don't we have a hauler parade before a big time drag race? Why doesn't the U.S. Nationals have a hauler parade of all of the, like, shut down Indianapolis and let everybody roll through, heck, roll around Indianapolis Motor Speedway and let them show how many race cars show up just down the street for something like that? There's some pomp and circumstance.
I love that type of stuff. And I personally, I think that the best in the industry today is Texas Motorplex. When it comes to engaging your local community, I think everybody in the space can learn a lot from them. I would argue that Bandamere was right there with them, or perhaps slightly ahead of them in years past. But that, if you can make your event matter locally, it's one of the ultimate hacks to growing one of these events rapidly, is getting a foothold locally. If you can make something mean something to the people that live within 100 miles or live within 50 miles, you can really do some damage in a good way. And it's just that local buy-in. It's so powerful. The word of mouth that comes with it. It's something super important. And I think that that's what a handful of these tracks have really mastered. And I think about the cattle drive in downtown Waxahachie, the things that they do around the Texas Motorplex in preparation for the Stampede of Speed. And, all those things to me tell me, my takeaway from it is you have to go to them, Lee. I make a lot of comparisons to the church, but I think there's just so many valid ones. But one of them is that, oftentimes, a modern strategy right now with churches, especially like non-denominational churches, is to go where the sinners are, right? Like, don't hold church service in some, big intimidating church building. Go to the local bar, right? Go to the local pool hall and have a service. Go to them. And I see that happening in other motorsports. I see, the Formula One went to Vegas. They brought the race to the people. They didn't do it 12 miles outside of town. They did it in downtown, in Las Vegas, right on the strip. Same with NASCAR. They have a racetrack right outside of the city in Joliet, right? Route 66 Raceway. But instead, they chose to bring the racing to the people. And I think that it just speaks to society. We're all very busy in this day and age. We have more distractions and more commitments and busier schedules than at any point in the history of mankind. And I think that some of these sports are recognizing that they've got to find ways to go to the people. And that's what those guys are doing with the truck parade. That's what they're doing with the cattle drive. They're finding ways to go to the people where they are and trying to, get a couple of hooks in them. But that's it's such a big process. But man, you said something a minute ago that resonates with me, Lee. And it's, I'm a break it kind of guy. That's kind of honestly something that really is in my head a lot. I'm a big cliche guy and I love using all of them, but I'm a break it kind of guy. I think that we are in this ongoing cycle of doing things the way they've always been done here in drag racing. I mean, I don't know that you can identify that many like significant changes to how this deal is presented. And there are things that I think about that just have to be changed. I heard an interesting thing on Fox Sports yesterday, and they were talking about, amidst all this Taylor Swift being on the NFL broadcast drama, that the average NFL playoff game, the broadcast on television for a 3.5-hour game, features 18 minutes of actual football, right? And that's, the ball in movement, right? A play happening. And it really spoke to me because I'm going, that's what we're missing. That is the perfect example that, no one can deny that football is what they're tuning in for, but it's not all they're tuning in for. Matter of fact, in the NFL scenario, I mean, you've got 80% of the show to fill up or whatever. I mean, you've got a tremendous amount of the show to fill up with other stuff. And I just think, to me, I keep hearing it, keep seeing it. We have to try some new things. And it's I can go into all of them, but that's the thing is trying to create a different environment, trying to create something that we feel confident could be replicated over the course of time and expanded upon. But I'm a break it kind of guy, and I think it's time. Our industry needs it. I feel like every ounce of my body feels this kind of buzz that is that's collectively people just looking for something new. What's the thing to be excited about? What's next? And I mean, and to your point, we're so excited for all the success NHRA is having and everything. But I do think we have to look to the future. Drag racing, we're so drunk on nostalgia and drunk on yesteryear that it seems like I see tons of content and tons of story looking back on the last 70 years in drag racing, but not nearly as much about looking forward to the next 70 years. And I think that we've got to be considering some of these things. Like, if they're instituting a shot clock in baseball, a pitch clock, there are major changes being happening across the board. You have to evolve with time. And I just want to create something that is it's nimble, that we can make some changes, man.
Yes, certainly. I think we're in a day and time change is necessary, and change, as scary as it might be, certainly can be a good thing. And thank you to yourself and the whole entire team willing to make some changes, see what works, see what does not work. And oftentimes I think you all hit on what does work. I've seen it at least with the World Door Slammer Nationals, which were spectacular races. And I'm sure you're doing that with the World Series of Pro Mod and everything I've heard from those events. And it's going to be the case with this Pro Shootout. You mentioned doing things differently, in particular, production with Flow Racing. What are some of the things that we can expect that will be different from a Fox broadcast? I know, Wes, I'm going to have a close eye on that starting line camera. It better be good. I know how to operate one, man.
Yeah, we feel like I'm really proud of everything that has gone on to this. We'll talk specifically about the Flow live stream. This has been a tremendous undertaking. We're actually flying thousands of feet of cable around the facility at Bradenton Motorsports Park so that we can improve our audio experience. We've brought in multiple light trucks. The amount of effort that has gone into creating just a proper set, a proper stage, if you will, for this event has been incredible, to be honest. But Flow Racing has been on site multiple times. We're going to be introducing some on-screen graphics that I think are going to be game changer. I can't spill the beans too much on this, but news will break next week as it starts to become apparent. But we've got some technology that we're introducing at Flow Racing next week that will really, really, really change the way the live stream is kind of seen, that I'm genuinely excited about. Production wise, it's really been in all the like ancillary things. So like specific to Flow, I'll continue on that, is bringing in 2 boom light trucks on either side of the track to make sure that our facility and our stage is well lit, makes it easier for all of our camera guys. We also have Al Tucci and Steve Logan that'll be in the booth. We have Jack Beckman and Ralph Shaheen, as well as Jamie Howe and Courtney Enders that will be handling color commentary, as well as pit interviews and various intro and outro segments and segments within commentary segments within the show. So I think you're going to see a different level of production than you've ever seen before for a live stream. Also a little bit just more choreography. Like the things that I notice when I watch a lot of drag racing on live streams, it's something I feel like I study. I've got piles of notes, and that experience needs to be improved. I mean, there are things that we need to get better at, but a lot of it is just no one's ever done it before. And so what we do is we work with Flow to create a slew of pre-produced, ready to roll segments and tidbits that can be played in the event of downtime on track, or something that we need to fill some space. I don't want to go to security camera footage, right? I don't want to go to a wide angle shot of the whole facility with no one that's not what I want to do. I want to continue to tell the story. So I believe over 25 Road to Bradenton pre-race packages have been recorded and produced before the event. We've done multiple kind of flyover, cold open types of bits that will set the stage for the environment and allow us to throw it to and fro the action. So just really trying to make that viewer experience for the person that's at home. I want to hold ourselves to the same standards to that fan, for that fan that's watching along at home or watching along on their phone, as we do for the people that are able to join us, in-house. My belief on this is that Flow event experience is super important to our future, because as my saying goes, big wedding, small church, I understand that we are in many ways limited to the amount of tickets we can sell based on the venues that I like to go to. And so I have to find ways to expand the experience so that I can get more eyeballs on the action. So because I know that I'm going to be limited to how many people I can physically get there. So perhaps, we here at Drag Illustrated, with these events, we may be more committed to the live stream than most, because we recognize that a considerable amount of our growth potential is going to be in terms of viewership and in terms of a global audience, not just fans that live locally that weren't able to make it. So that's amongst a slew of other changes. I think you're going to be really happy, especially with the experience you have in broadcasting and the live stream production. I think you'll be impressed, Lee.
Looking forward to it. Certainly. I got my eye on that starting line camera. When that funny car body raises, I mean, that's one of the greatest shots in drag racing, in my opinion.
I can't argue, dude.
When that body lifts, you can see the driver, and they're removing the dashboard and everything and working on it, final adjustments. Just love that with a nitro burning.
It's hard to beat, dude.
Hard to beat. Why Bradenton Motorsports Park? This is in the limelight right now. I believe it's Victor Alvarez, correct?
Yes, sir. What
they have going on down there, talk about improvements, talk about this track in the economy of great tracks. I feel like making a march forward in their brand and in their stock with all the events that they traditionally have and everything that they're adding, and in particular, this event now.
I think Bradenton, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I think it's really impressive. The footprint that they have established here I mean, obviously the track has been around a long time, but in its current form, with its current ownership, a relatively new process, and I'm blown away by it, man. For me, why Bradenton has always been, it's about people first. And I like Vic Alvarez and I are dear friends. He is a young, hungry, motivated guy. And I like to tell people that Vic matches my energy. That's something that I look for in partners and people that I work with. I want someone that's going to match my energy because I'm going to bring it. I'm going to be fired up. I'm going to be working on this thing day and night. I'm going to be beating the brush. I'm going to be that's what I'm going to bring. And I'm going to bring a ferocity to the event. And I need people that are going to match me with that energy, because I've been in plenty of relationships before where that's out of sorts. And what I get from Vic is someone that's fired up, someone that is eager to make a splash, make a difference. Because for me, this stuff it hits home, buddy. Like, it probably it's not at all surfacey for me. Like, it doesn't take me long to close my eyes and remember being 14, 15 years old the first time I got a taste of promoting a drag race, helping out my dad, high school student, didn't even have my driver's license. And I remember I was part of putting on an event, and I remember what that felt like to be responsible for hosting the party and for being responsible for creating something that people want to be a part of and would choose to be a part of, and in some instances spend money to be a part of. And it's an intoxicating feeling. It's an intoxicating feeling like you're the one that got everybody together, right? Because that's when the magic happens, is when everyone's together. So this deal, on so many levels for me, I mean, if I think back to that 15-year-old that's calling and begging guys with outdated nostalgia pro stock cars to come to a race so I can pay him $300 to make 4 runs, to think about where we're at today with 62 championships amidst our pro superstar shootout drivers. The greatest of all time, John Force, on the entry list. The best female drag racer, arguably the best drag racer of all time, Erica Enders, on the list, right? Steve Torrance, a living legend, on the list. Ron Capps, Doug Coletta, Antron Brown, Clay Milliken. I mean, I'm so proud of this moment, and it's almost unbelievable. And like I said, it's not hard for me to go back to that punk ass kid that's just trying to get some people to show up and support a race, and to be here now. I think Bradenton's the type of place that I feel at home at. I like clubs. That's really what it is. I think that I watched a podcast the other night, and a guy was talking about how he preferred to perform in clubs. He didn't want to do arenas. He didn't want to do, big stage deals. He wanted to do intimate shows at clubs. And honestly, man, that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's what excites me. I like going to small venues that I feel fit our sports DNA, right? I mean, and I love all these big tracks, and I love all the amenities and whatnot, but I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about my vision and the things that I like to do. And I like going to nitty gritty Saturday night drag strips. And that's where I feel these events play best. So that was really, for me, one of the driving forces towards putting this event in Bradenton, was the type of place, the atmosphere and vibe they've created, but the people involved. And it's beyond Vic Alvarez. I mean, it's Wade Rich, it's Sharon, it's John Cotterer, it's everybody that's involved with that facility is just swimming the same direction. And it's a great thing to see. And you're right, man. The impact they've made on the sport of drag racing over the course of the last few years, it's rare air. It's not often that a drag strip kind of ascends like this. I mean, they're in one word name category, right? I mean, it's Bradenton, right? I mean, I think a la Daytona, a la Indy. I mean, I think Bradenton is a standalone destination now, and it's definitely on the map. I mean, I think the amount of historic runs that we've seen there over the course of the last few years, the major events we've seen there, but it is interesting. I think that I think part of it is that a lot of Bradenton's biggest events happen when there's not much else going on. So they're able to like kind of uniquely cut through the static, cut through the noise, because they live in a time on the schedule that's got less competition than most of these other events. And it allows people, I think, that have a widespread interest in drag racing to kind of follow along even loosely. So those events, I think time of year is important. And that's the other thing, is we wanted to be respectful to other events that are on the calendar, respectful to other things that are happening in drag racing. And that's why we knew February 8th, 9th, and 10th would be the ideal weekend to do this. And when you're drag racing in February, you're headed to Florida. So it all kind of fell in line. But again, it's really, for me personally, it's a fantastic match, because I just really feel like the group of people down there care about this stuff at the level that I care about it. And that's what matters. You need those things to match up.
Certainly understand that take of a place that fits. And I see that with Mocan Dragway. Love going to Mocan with the Chaos brand and that
awesome.
special facility. You're obviously very familiar with Eddyville Raceway Park. I love that track, and it is such a pristine facility in such a neat setting near Oski and out there in Iowa. I think of Shadyside with Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. Everybody in drag racing needs to experience the mayhem that is Shadyside with Sega in town. There's just places that, though they may not be that ZMAX, they are a ZMAX in fit, placement, and time with everything as you mentioned. And yeah, if I'm a Gulf Coast drag strip, I'm looking at what Bradenton's doing and saying, how can I jump in on everything and spin something off and get my own programs going? If I'm a drag race track that I have to shut down in summer because of heat, but I can function through the winter, I'm trying to figure something out right now. So you mentioned in the chat on Competition Plus Power Hour that, wow, I've got John Force coming to my drag race. And you just mentioned John Force, arguably the greatest name in drag racing, period. He's going to be at your drag race. But why? Why is there this support from people that have been doing it at the professional ranks for so long? Now they're doing something a bit outside of the ballpark, if you will, and they're going to swing the bat under some different lights. Why is a John Force, a Cruz Petragon, a Steve Torrance, a Clay Milliken, why are these people involved, you think?
I think it all goes back to the promise of the future. I think we humans will go through a lot of stress. We'll go through a lot of turmoil today. We'll go through it. We will fight the good fight, so long as we know that so long as we have a promise of a brighter tomorrow. We'll go through it today. But when that promise for tomorrow starts to fade or become undefined in some way, shape, or form, that causes people to stop working so hard, right? Stop being willing to fight the way that they are. And to be honest with you, that's what I see in professional drag racing. I feel like at the highest level of our sport, there's a little bit of a disconnect between the final destination that NHRA has in mind and the racers that are along for the ride with them. I think there's been a lack of transparency over the course of time. And I think that we're just at a moment in time where stakeholders have a voice, and they deserve to be in the know, in the loop. And I think that that's what I hear from a lot of people is it's like, again, turn the spin machine off, turn the mainstream news approach to this off, quit trying to, what is the plan for the future, right? What is the grand vision for the NHRA or for professional drag racing? And I think what I see at least is that people are not satisfied with the status quo. They're not satisfied with doing the things the way they've always done them, especially if the results look like they do currently. And I mean, the fact is that we have to create an environment that is attractive, that is magnetic. I feel like drag racing in many ways is known primarily as a tax deduction for business owners. That's a problem. right? I mean, it's a fantastic thing that we have, entrepreneurs and business owners in this space that are able to, make these things work for their businesses and work in their lives. But my point is that we have to find a way to get drag racing, especially at this level, to be cash flow positive, right? And I believe that is out there. I look at the amount of revenue that is generated by the NHRA annually. I look at the fan turnout that we have, and I struggle to make it. And I understand perhaps better than most that there's a lot of bread that's got to get buttered, right? There's a lot of people that got to eat, no doubt about it. But I just feel like the momentum that we have, Lee, the interest, the buzz, the support from these racers. I mean, this is unheard of. I was having a conversation with my kids about this. It's like John Force doesn't go to people's races. Like, that's not the way this works. And he shouldn't. He doesn't have to, right? But he is casting his vote with his wallet, his time, his reputation, his energy. I mean, this is a huge moment for this entire group of people to have those haulers pull through the gates of Bradenton Motorsports Park. And I think that support comes from the promise of the future. They are excited by the promise of something new, bright and shiny, and not just new, but potentially better. They recognize that there is room for this in our community. There are sponsors to go around. There are fans to go around. There is, strong racer support in many categories right now. But we have to be trying to create some new places and a promising future for our racers, because we've got to change the narrative and get in control of it. I mean, I can't get over, how much energy and buzz I see around a track closure announcement or whatever. Well, let's start to explore some ways to do these things different, and let's put that effort into changing the trajectory we're on and creating that bright future for everybody, because we are laser focused on how we used to do it and how it used to be.
True. Yes. I firmly believe that the national event model, and I have said this on my platform and on Competition Plus, that the national event model with the NHRA right now is outdated, and it needs a major overhaul to be a better functioning show for the fan and the racer to move the entire product forward. So, I certainly can understand why you've got the involvement with this slant of, we're doing something that is going to have an impact for the future. Maybe we can showcase that it can be done differently, that there is things that we can take away from an event. Bobby Bennett has this routine interview with Glenn Cromwell, NHRA president, that he has done for several years now. And Bobby did bring up, hey, what about this SCAG Pro shootout that's happening down at Bradenton? And Glenn, I think, gave, for president of the NHRA, a solid answer. He just said the NHRA is focused on the NHRA and moving it forward. What do you think about an answer, a response like that? Because you've got the use of a product established within the NHRA and those people that are competing in it. But as you mentioned, unlike probably ever before, the racers and the teams that are competing in the NHRA, well, they can take their ball and play elsewhere with the funds that they have behind them. When you talk about a Torrance, when you talk about a Salinas, when you talk about a brand like a Force, when you talk about a Chad Green, those type of individuals. Yeah,
my dad taught me a long time ago that he who has the gold makes the rules. And the racers got the gold, bro. I mean, I understand, like, I'm not trying to create dissension with that commentary, but I do think it's something that's really been the catalyst here. Is this is a group of people that recognize that they're a significant part of this deal. They are not just the help. These are people that are seriously contributing to the overall like the landscape of professional drag racing. They're contributing heavily. And I think that what we see here, and I mean, I was first and foremost, I was glad that Bobby asked about it. I mean, to Cromwell, I will be truthful in that it's been essentially radio silence as far as communication between at least my group, Drag Illustrated, specifically in the NHRA, really since late last year. I've been disappointed to see some of that breakdown in communication. I think it's really short sighted. But I also am. I know that humans are going to human, and I think we would have been foolish to think that there wouldn't be any sort of hurt feelings or ruffled feathers in regards to this announcement. I think that would have been a unrealistic expectation. I was hopeful, and I remain hopeful, because none of this is rooted. None of what's happening is really rooted in a desire to see them fail or a desire to cause necessarily problems for them, but it's representative of we have to do something. We have to have, and I think a lot of it has to do with control and transparency. I can't tell you the amount of meetings that have been had with racers over the course of the last 8 months. Lee, I've had personal phone calls, hours long at times, with almost every single one of these racers. And I think that is really that bedrock of communication and talking to these people and being engaged, getting to know them, knowing their families, demonstrating that we're all in this together. I think that that's really what they have latched onto, is that I know personally, I really care about this group of people, and I really care about their future. I really care about what happens next in their racing careers. And I want to see them succeed, and I want to see them experience more. And I know that I've got them believing that there's more out there. And that's what I want to kind of continue to work towards. And I thought it was a non-answer from Cromwell personally. I thought it was very stick and ball, kind of approach to it. Because listen, I'm a hip hop guy, so I can totally get down with only listening to your own music. That's what Lil Wayne would always say that he did. He didn't listen to anybody else's music. He only listens to his own. So I can appreciate the perspective of being laser focused on what they've got going on. And I would say that, as are we, but we also recognize our role in the greater drag racing economy. And I think that that's really, that's the difference here, is that we recognize that it's our obligation to lead by example. It's our obligation to try to find ways to help the entire sport of drag racing grow, not just specific portions of it. And we recognize that a high tide lifts all boats. We recognize that, continued success for the PDRA or continued success for the NMCA does not hurt us. It only helps us that more people are drag racing and drag racing at a high level. And I think that that is something I feel like it's been well received. Just an air of collaboration. I've been saying a lot lately, the people at the top are collaborating while the people at the bottom are competing. And that's what I see happening here, Lee, is a lot of collaboration. Racers working together, sponsors working together. The business to business aspect of this has been huge. I mean, we have, I believe, nearly 500 guests from SCAG Power Equipment coming down to Bradenton to be a part of the Superstar Shootout. And it's like just that environment alone and the effort that's gone in to making sure the drag strip is a great place to do business. It's a fantastic business environment. It's exciting. It's a sensory experience. There's a lot to keep you entertained, and there's plenty of opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. So I think that it's a great environment that we're looking to leverage. And how can we enhance this in this atmosphere? How can we do it better? And again, provide that framework to the masses that there is a way to do this without the only way. I think there are so many track operators and promoters that really see one equation. How many entries can I get to pay for the purse? Right. And we just want to demonstrate that there are other ways to monetize these events. There's other ways to produce these events that create a lot of opportunity for value to be provided to sponsors. And there's a lot of very valuable people on the property that sponsors see as customers. So there's a way to make this whole thing work. It's just getting tuned in to what serves everyone. And above all else, going back to what we started with, man, is I think that this group of people want to see a destination. They want to see a star, a North Star where we're headed. And what we're trying to change that standard, and we're trying to help establish, because it is my goal to see drag racing mentioned in the same breath as Formula One, NASCAR, IndyCar. You know, we deserve as a sport, the best thing that can happen in any of those motorsports that I just mentioned is a drag race breakout. It's the best thing that could happen. 2 Formula One cars come out of the final turn and drag race to the finish line. Oh, they'd lose their mind over there in Europe, right? I mean, the same thing in NASCAR. If they come out of the final turn and they're headed towards that checker flag too wide, the fans will go nuts. They're going to burn Talladega to the ground, right? That's exactly what they're there for. That's all we do is a drag race to the finish line, right? Sudden death, first one to the finish line wins every time. Our sport deserves more than it has. It's easy to digest. It happens fast. The cars are incredible. It's a spectacle sensory experience. Our drivers are characters and big personalities that come from all walks of life. It's diverse, men and women, every race, creed, or color, age. I mean, we have so many things to offer the masses, so many ways for people to connect. We have access that's unparalleled in motorsports. But again, we're somehow outside of that mainstream motorsports conversation. We're not on Sports Center. We're not in the top 10s. We're not getting mainstream plugs. We don't have, influencers from the social media world falling all over themselves to get access the way that other sports do. That has to change. And that's what we're trying to create, is an event that will bring people from all walks of the racing life together, give fans a show that we know is solid, give them the best drag racing in the world, and make sure everybody has fun while we're doing it.
I like it. You know, I've always been disappointed with the title of the book and the characters, America's Racing Trinity, and there's not a drag racer in it. Why isn't Garlits on that along with Foyt and Petty? And I'm sure drag racing would welcome Andretti to field a car or two, and they wouldn't have to put a bid. They come on, bring it, and participate in the sport. And as far as access, no one does it better for sure. And drag racers should be up there at the top when mentioned along with everyone else. It's fascinating to me that the FIA, the drag racers, are off in the corner while they are on the same stage with the F1 participants and the F2 and 3 and so on. So, yeah, drag racing has got, I think, a long way to go in that branding. And I feel like we're suffering from business decisions made long ago. And your team and others are attempting to correct the ship, I think, in moments like this, because I can think back that at one time drag racing was like the coolest thing. You know, there used to be vinyl of just drag racing sounds from a drag race with the announcers that were mass produced and people would listen to. You look at someone like Don Perdome, like, you just can't get no cooler than a Don Perdome. And you look at a grizzled Don Garlits, and you look at what Shirley Muldowney was doing in her day. There was a day and time that stars wanted to be around drag racers and not the other way around. And we've got to get back to that, I think. And I think with what you are doing in Drag Illustrated and Flow Racing and with this event and the stockholders putting their brand on the line, that it's helping to create such coolness once again. So I commend all that you're doing. And look, Wes, I don't want to hold you for too much longer. We're going to take a question from Going Bracket Racing. You've been on their show a few times, and they're certainly a good group over there at GBR. They're asking, is the intention for the Pro Shootout to be a yearly event? How do you think the NHRA will respond to this event if it is a huge success?
I mean, I'll answer the second part first because it's probably easier to answer. It's going to be a huge success. I mean, I can tell you guys with clarity that the advanced ticket sales alone for this event will be unlike, if only our advanced ticket sale fans show up, it will be more significant than anything that's happened in the history of Bradenton Motorsports Park, if just the pre-sales show up. So knowing what we know about gates and the buying habits of drag racing consumers, we anticipate significant week of traffic as far as ticket sales are concerned. And all indications are this is going to be a barn burner at every imaginable level. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. I hope that it's with some positivity at the bare minimum. I think we will have largely done what we set out to do just when we arrive there. We already have people on the property scraping the track right now, but it's what comes next is a big question. And I know that there's a lot of movement, a lot of action in the background right now, kind of talking about what the future looks like. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of different ways this can go. And one of which would be to create an annual happening. And I went into this event with that plan. I'll share this because it's something that I believe, and I think it's something other race promoters and track owners can lean into. But I think it's typically a 3-year process with events to really get an idea of where you're at and what you're working with. That was a philosophy that I kind of leaned into after a long-term experience with the team at Bandimere Speedway. Is that it's a process, right? And in year 1, you're really demonstrating proof of concept. You're getting the flag planted, right? In year 2, you're demonstrating consistency and identifying that you can do it again, right? And then in year 3, that's when you really start to cook with gas and things start to happen, and you're able to, things start to maybe not necessarily roll downhill, but you get some momentum. You become a little bit more of a obvious thing, right, that people believe in. So I would love to see the opportunity to continue to establish this event at Bradenton Motorsports Park, but we're also open to a lot of different outcomes. To be honest with you, I think that we have driven enough change right now that I'm pretty content. I'm pretty content personally with what's happened here, and I think we're going to have made a big splash. We're going to change the way things are done in a lot of different areas, and that is something that I feel we can collectively hang our hat on. I think there's a lot more out there for the sport of drag racing, and I think that there's fertile soil that we're walking around on. But I am really proud of what we've accomplished as a group, and I think it's yet to be seen kind of what happens next. We've got this has been a tremendous endeavor, buddy. Double-decker stages, music stages, helicopters, doctors, Department of Homeland Security. It's been unbelievable, all that we have gone into or kind of contended with in the preparation of this event. And now we'll spend the next 4 days scraping the glue off the track, which I'm sure is something that most race fans completely gloss over, is that, you know, U.S. Street Nationals, one of the big radial tire events in the country, was just this past weekend at Bradenton Motorsports Park. So the track is completely covered in glue, which we have to remove entirely to run Top Fuel and Funny Car and Pro Stock next week. So it's just been an incredible labor of love. And I think we're all going to enjoy a few days to kind of catch our breath and start to look at what the future holds. But I do think we'll see news in the very near future about our plans for 24 and beyond.
Wes, I feel that ever since COVID, that drag racing, honestly, out of all the motorsports, has had the best upward trajectory. And your programs, such as World Door Slammer Nationals, World Series of Pro Mod, and now this, are certainly a part of that driving upward trajectory. Keep up the good work. We look forward to hearing that this pro shootout is a success and that it certainly does move drag racing forward. Thank you for your time, Wes.
Appreciate you, buddy. See you guys next weekend.
Take care. Folks, Wes Buck on the SCAG Pro Shootout presented by Johnson Horsepower Garage. We're going to take a quick break, and right after the break, we're going to dive into some drag racing news here on Between the Slicks.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope.
Well, thanks again to Wes Buck for his time to speak on the pro shootout that is coming up, not this weekend, but the weekend after this one that we have ahead of us down there at Bradenton Motorsports Park. It's going to be a tremendous event, and I certainly hope it does do as he mentioned, in that it shows that there are some different ways to do things. There's certainly different thoughts that need to be applied, and drag racing overall move forward. I think that is definitely a good shot to take and to create that momentum in the sport of drag racing. And if you have the people such as are involved and pro doing something that frankly it's never done, and I would argue from what I have heard in the past that they were not interested in doing it all not that long ago, for them to change and shift gears along with the owners and competitors involved, it is certainly already a bit of a movement. It's not even just a bit of a movement, it is a movement in its own right. In drag racing news, very quickly, do want to say congratulations to Mark Mickle. He was able to pick up the $32,000 down there at the U.S. Street Nationals, Bradenton Motorsports Park. Here he is in his Turbo Pro mod, picking up the win, him and his team, earning the honors of winning one of the top door slammer races in the country down there in Florida. The Midwest Drag Racing Series, they have had their schedule out for a while. I wanted to take the time to highlight the 2024 schedule. 8 events for the Midwest Drag Racing Series presented by J&A Services. They're going to be streaming on Flow Racing. You've got highlights here. XRP to kick off the season. They are going to be at Pine Valley Raceway there in East Texas. They will also be in Tulsa, Worldwide Technology Raceway, 131 Drag Strip, and notice Flying H. The Midwest Drag Racing Series will be at Flying H. And if I understand correctly, looking at the calendars, May 31st and June 1st, that is certainly going to be a good test for Flying H and the facility, because that's going to be one of the biggest drag races that they would have held to date, if not the biggest. So look to the Midwest Drag Racing Series, their schedule, and them showing up at Flying H Drag Strip to get an idea of what that place is going to be like in Odessa, Missouri. Moving on, we had an announcement dropped, I think this was first posted today, that before the Gator Nationals, the Bernie's Fan Fest, that is going to be taking place. Josh Hart putting it on once again at his place Wednesday, March 6th, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And that was a spectacular show. Great Fan Fest last year. You certainly want to attend this Fan Fest if you are going to be at the Gator Nationals. Kick off your Gator Nationals weekend with this event, then try to get a ticket to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony and roll right into the Gator Nationals. And you have got a spectacular weekend of drag racing festivities for yourself. In sanctioning body news, the WDRA, they add a new member track, I-29 Dragway in Pacific Junction, Iowa. So they continue to add more tracks, as well as the IHRA and the NHRA hold strong in the sanctioning bodies of the WDRA, IHRA, and the NHRA in the world of drag racing. I just hope they all play along nicely and that the drag racers overall win. This has been announced. The Northwest Nationals up there just outside of Seattle, beautiful drag strip. Was able to attend there last year for the first time. They are going to have Friday night qualifying. And I definitely think that's needed for this event. That event on Friday had terrible attendance. I will admit that's one of the few races that I attended NHRA National event-wise that on Friday the attendance was not there. Certainly attendance was great Saturday and Sunday, but it was not well attended on Friday. They're making a change. They're making a shift, and they're putting NHRA under the lights for that qualifying session on Friday night. And that's the way it should be. If you're going to have one session on Friday of Nitro, put it under the lights. That is certainly going to be cool up there at Pacific Raceways for the Northwest Nationals. Speaking of extra content out there in the drag racing world, tonight, February 1st, tonight on MAV TV, The Life, Antron Brown at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is airing documentary-style look into Antron Brown and his journey to the top in the world of drag racing. This very stuff that we're needing for drag racing and for it to move forward. Last part of drag racing news that I want to mention, don't have a fancy graphic for it or anything, but we always are up in arms over track closure announcements, as Wes mentioned. And yes, they seem to garner so much attention when there is an announcement of track closure. And yet when tracks announce that they're opening or reopening, it just seems like that positivity with us humans just doesn't carry the same weight. I'm sure there's people out there at this very moment that still think that former Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park, now Firebird once again, is long gone and done with, when no, it has been brought back to life, and we'll see them drag racing this very year in 2024. Well, we have the announcement of a new drag strip in Nassau County, Florida, the Jacksonville market, if you will, Callahan, Florida, at Callahan Speedway, which is a karting facility, a dirt karting facility, a one David Hicken announced and has it approved by the local boards, administration, municipalities, the county, to build an 8th-mile drag strip in that market of Florida. And that's good news. I know many of you might say, it's only 8th mile. Well, forget that. It's a drag strip. You've got somewhere to go drag race, somewhere to go take your horsepower machine and put the pedal to the metal and have a good time. That's good news. That has been shared on Dragzine. I believe Drag Illustrated to share it. I first caught it from a local news report there out of Nassau County in the Jacksonville, Florida market. That's a great market also to just have a drag strip. No telling what might be in the future for this drag strip. So go find that news and hit the share button on it. If you hit the share button on track closures, well, go find this news and hit the share button. Folks, I'm Lee Kraft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer. This has been Between the Slicks. Thank you, Wes Buck, for your time to talk about the SCAG Pro Shootout presented by Johnson Horsepower Garage. This has been another good episode of Between the Slicks. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and we will see you down the road. Keep the pedal to the metal, and God bless. Thank you all. Thank you.
Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase.